This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Everyone, welcome to this week's pod. It's the show for the week of September 19th, 2022. And we have Zach joining us to talk about his experience with D23 and also recent cruise on the Disney Wish. As advertised, what was it, 3 weeks ago, Zach? 4 weeks ago? How long has it been?
I got off the ship on Friday.
But when were you last on? That was the thing. Was that like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks? I can't even remember. It's been a while. But not that long.
Like the end of August. But
go.
hello, everyone. Glad to be back.
Glad to have you back. This week, we got some Candlelight Processional information that is going out, and we'll talk about the survey about whether you prefer virtual queues or standby, which I think is very interesting. This week's Our Takes on Disney, Walt Disney World modes of transportation, and DBC engagement on if the Disney brand is damaged. But first, we're going to find out what's going on in our Disney World. Phil, what everybody's talking about this week?
Yeah, so first off, obviously we want to send positive thoughts out to everyone that has been or will be impacted by Hurricane Ian. Is it Ian or Ian? How are they calling it? Ian? Okay. And, you know, it looks like the latest maps have it kind of, I was telling Zach, it looks like it's going to go across Epcot and hit Universal Studios. And so we'll see. A lot of variabilities in what happens, but, you know, nothing to mess around with. So obviously setting our best to thought. And, you know, it's just announced that all the major parks, Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, they're all going to be closed for at least a couple days for this. So definitely they're not messing around.
Nope.
On the positive side, also came out today, some exciting MCU news that they posted Ryan Reynolds posted a little video saying he wished he was at the D23 Expo to announce this, but he wasn't able to be, and just saying, you know, wanted to have an exciting way to announce that Deadpool is coming to the MCU. And then Hugh Jackman just walks by and he's like, "Hey, Hugh, you want to play Wolverine again?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So apparently coming in 2024 will be Deadpool 3, which will also feature Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So obviously all the X-Men are coming into the MCU. And then just to add more fire to the nerd, or more fuel to the nerd fire, John Krasinski quote tweeted that saying, "Wait, is this our movie?" So apparently implying he's going to be in it too. So I guess we'll see what goes with that. But
I mean, smarter people than us are going to start debating what that actually means and all this other stuff. We won't do it here on this show. There's better places.
Plenty of other YouTube videos of people that'll break that down like second by second. Actually, I saw one of them had a video up about it and it was an hour and 3 minutes long. I'm like, the original video was like 4 minutes long.
Yeah,
you're talking about it for an hour.
That's nuts.
On to more actual news. Disney came out with a lot of information about all the holiday events that will be happening at Epcot late November and into December. First came out was a number of the celebrity narrators that are going to be there for Candlelight Procession, which is a big part of the festivities over there. Zach is waving his hands joyously about that. And so I know, Jason, you and I will both be down there for, you know, that time of year. So is this something that you are definitely going to be doing when you're down there with your family? Is it something that if you're able to fit it in? We were talking about it on Discord about all the dining packages that you can buy to guarantee yourself spots, and some of that might depend on who the narrator is when you go. But kind of what are your thoughts on Candlelight Procession?
So I've never really thought about being in Disney World during the Christmas months. I love decorating at home, and this year we're going down there for a week, and so I've never really done massive amounts of research on what I would love to do, or not research, but like heavy planning on what I think would like to do, that type of thing. And I've always heard amazing things about the Candlelight Processional, and I've always wanted to do it. But then looking at it and how do I fit it into my family vacation, where I want it to be almost as a normal Disney vacation rather than like a Christmas-oriented Disney vacation, because we had so many that were canceled with the family. So,
right.
So it basically comes down to this: do I want to do it the right way, which would be with a dining option, or do I want to do the party at Magic Kingdom? So because they're both roughly right around the same cost of costing us $700-800 with tax for a family of 5, I think I'm going with the party at Magic Kingdom because that's something I've always wanted to scratch off my bucket list. I'd be excited to do it. I don't want to wait around for it because I'm not either local or I'm not going down there as our annual trip because we've already been down with the family quite a bit. So I'm kind of hesitant to really kind of plan around it. But I would love to do the dining package if I had some more free money to throw around and do it. That's something I would definitely do if I had the cash for it, or I wanted to spend the cash for it. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
What about you, Zach? As a local man, when do you usually head down? Do you just how do you plan around it?
The Christmas holiday, the holiday season is my favorite time at any Disney theme park. Growing up in California, going to Disneyland every single year during the holiday season. Always look forward to it. In fact, the Halloween season always just tells me that the Christmas holiday season is just right around the corner.
Yep.
But yeah, I absolutely love the holidays at Walt Disney World. It's definitely a beautiful time of year. It's not just Halloween where I feel like just Magic Kingdom is decorated. Like all the resorts get decorated, all the parks get decorated in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't wait.
So
it's almost.
How do you choose when to do the, like you were obviously excited for those that are listening, like Phil mentioned, you were doing like thumbs up, you were kind of bouncing in your seat, you listening, thinking about the Candlelight Processional. How do you choose when you go and how you see it? Do you pick out the best day for your schedule, or do you pick it out by who's reading? Like how do you determine when you go, if you go?
Of course, I have the favorites on the list that I want to see, but that's not why I go to Candlelight. Candlelight Processional is my favorite thing at Walt Disney World in the entire year.
Ooh.
It is absolutely beautiful, but if you remember, I'm an entertainment person, and so just having the opportunity to hear a live concert with a celebrity guest narrator narrating the Christmas story. It's definitely one of the best ways to kick off the holiday season for me.
Well, there you go. So you're saying kick off. So do you go as early as possible, and then do you go again as close to Christmas as possible? How do you what is your tradition, I guess? With
every time I'm in Epcot, I'm there.
Okay, just done. That's just it. Bookmark it.
If you're going to Epcot this year, you may see someone on the stage. Hint, hint.
Okay. I won't pursue that while we're recording on this thing. Maybe we'll leave that to another show. Phil, I mean, you were super excited because I think you were focusing this vacation with your family as how do I do more Christmas-oriented things during my trip than a normal trip. So are you doing like a dining package for this? What are you pulling the trigger on, I guess?
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily that we said, oh, we're going for Christmas. It's just that we kind of planned this around my son's birthday, which happens to be in December, and we're like, well, we've never been there really for the holidays, so while we're there, we want to take advantage of that and kind of see what we can fit in. And I've heard nothing but amazing things about Candlelight Processional, which for people who don't know what it is, it's where they have a celebrity narrator tells the story of Christmas, but it encompasses, I think, a 50-piece orchestra and what they call a massed choir, just tons of people singing it along, and it's supposed to be quite a moving experience. And I think, like Zach says, can really kind of set the stage for the holiday season for a lot of people. Obviously, not everyone, maybe celebrates that aspect of the holidays, but for those that do, I think it can be quite moving. So this is definitely something I'm making a priority to do while we're there. We've decided in the last week we're going to add hoppers to our tickets, so we'll actually have 2 chances at Epcot. So we're definitely planning on, and so we were debating whether do we need to do the the dining package? Can we wait around? And I'm obviously not an expert or experienced it, but my understanding is depending on who the narrator is, can kind of dictate how much the demand is and how long the lines can be, where you have to kind of wait to get in. Where, looking through the names, someone like Neil Patrick Harris, I know in the past has had 4 or 5 hours people lined up for him. So I was like really curious, who's going to be the narrator when I'm there? Is it going to be somebody super popular, or maybe a less popular person where we could just wait for an hour or something like that and take turns or something? Well, it turns out that it's a new narrator, new celebrity for when we're there, and it's Josh Gad, who I think is going to be possibly the most popular narrator this year.
Possibly, yeah.
So we are leaning towards getting the dining package just to kind of guarantee our spots. We were looking through menus last night. I think we've settled on doing Beer Garden, which was kind of one of the mid-priced ones. And we've never eaten there before. And my understanding is they kind of decorate it for the holidays, and the band does kind of holiday songs and stuff like that. So I think that would be a fun experience to do as well. So yeah, it's definitely something we debated, if we could get away without doing it. But I think given our sort of limited time, our first chance to be down there for the holidays, this is something we really want to do. I think we're going to bite the bullet. And, it certainly isn't cheap, but, I think it'll be about $65 a person versus $150 for
double or twice that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to load up the website, and predictably, the website failed me. I'm getting some errors. Can you go over some of the ranges on costs, Phil, with some of the options for those that are curious?
Yeah. So they have there's a couple quick service. So first of all, one thing I want to mention, like several years ago, there used to be a whole lot of restaurants. You had a whole lot of options, even some not in the park and stuff like that, like where you could do it. The last couple of years, or last year, it was very limited, and this seems to be kind of picking up the trend. So the options are, there's 2 quick service locations, which are same day only. Obviously, you can't make a reservation. It's on a first come, first serve, and that's at the Regal Eagle Smokehouse, which is $40, which, kind of gets your meal there plus a ticket, or Spice Road Table, which is $52 for adults, $23 for children. And then the table service one, so Beer Garden, like I mentioned, which is $65 for adults, Coral Reef is $74, Garden Grill is $71, Rose and Crown is $64, and then they did add a signature Les Solaire Steakhouse is $100 a person. So it's not cheap. If you look at, say, for a Beer Garden, I think if it's an extra, I don't know, $10 to $20 or something like that, or $19 maybe for an adult extra to have this package versus just eating there. So that's kind of what you're paying for having the guaranteed seat.
And if I recall, go ahead, Zach.
Well, just one thing. I will say, kind of to give some insight. Definitely on the narrator, definitely depends on how popular the shows are. I will say the first 2 shows are always the most busy. Sometimes you could get lucky and walk in standby at the very last show at the night, which I think is at 8:30.
Correct. Yeah, the shows are 5:15, 7, and 8:30.
Yes, and then but yeah, I'd definitely try, maybe if you're doing standby, to get into that last show, and then it's usually easy to get a spot in Italy for Harmonious right after that, because the fireworks will go off within half an hour of the last Candlelight. Because the other thing is, Candlelight's an hour long, and even with the dining package, I highly recommend arriving early, because that only guarantees you a seat, and there are some bad seats in the America Gardens Theater. So definitely still arrive early with the dining package, because sometimes Disney will sell the whole entire theater with just dining package, depending on the narrator, I think.
So now I'm thinking, Phil, I'm looking at some of these, or I'm listening to you go off some of these lesser prices. I think I could squeeze. It's not as bad as $150, which was what I was thinking. If I can go like Spice Road Table or something, that's not too bad.
Yeah, I think if we had multiple Epcot days or something, we might consider that, because you kind of have to go right when those restaurants open, I think, and kind of like be online to get those. And we just know we have other stuff we want to get done in Epcot. But I think that's, whether, $40 at Regal Eagle or $52 at Spice Road isn't too bad.
Well, let's move this along. I just want to touch on some of the other activities at Epcot. I'm looking at a list, And I haven't really started looking at some of the stuff that they do there. And there's a lot of great stuff. And we're going to touch upon this probably next month as the Christmas season starts going on. But I've just changed one of my Animal Kingdom days to an Epcot day because I had 2 Animal Kingdom days and 1 Epcot day. That's the day we're both going to be there. And I think I'm going to go heavy on all these holiday season type of things and potentially schedule a Candlelight Processional. I'm down for it. Zach, one last thing before we move on to the next news item. I know we're going along with this, but this one's exciting because again, like you, love Christmas and talking about it. What's one other activity other than the Candlelight Processional that you'll love seeing or you're looking forward to because you haven't done it yet or it's new that's been announced?
I'll just name several things.
Okay.
The Voice of Liberty usually do some caroler sets inside the American Adventure Pavilion.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or the Dickens carolers, I think is what they're called. And then Mariachi Cobre in Mexico will do a specific holiday show with different traditions from Mexico. There's another entertainment group that usually comes around Christmas with Joyful. They'll do a bunch of different Christmas songs, and then after Christmas, they turn into doing a bunch of songs that represent Kwanzaa.
Oh, that's nice.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of like a gospel choir kind of group. And then also there's the many storytellers around World Showcase where you can learn the different traditions on how several cultures celebrate the holiday season, which they're a lot of fun to listen to and watch.
So I asked Zach for one thing, and he lists all the things, which we appreciate, which is great because that kind of starts getting me to start thinking. Because 60 days out, I've got to really start ironing out expectations and what we can do on each day, and so the kids can start getting excited for that.
I'm sorry, I just love Festival of Holidays.
I can't wait. I honestly can't wait for it. It's going to be a ton of fun because I've never been during that time of year.
One more. Living with the Land is also usually has a holiday overlay.
Phil's going to be writing that all day long if he can.
Absolutely. That might be the number one thing my wife wants to do. That's true. That will be our Lightning Lane priority.
There we go. All right, let's go on to the next thing. There was a survey.
Yeah, so Disney sent out a survey to a number of people recently who had ridden Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. For those of you not aware, that is the newest ride at Walt Disney World and Epcot, and they're still using a virtual queue system for that. So the only way to ride that ride is either purchasing an individual Lightning Lane or by securing a virtual queue. We're not going to get into the details on how to do that because it's complicated and there's different things, but that's the only way to ride. You can't just walk up and say, I'm going to wait for 2 hours or whatever. You have to get a virtual queue. So they sent out the survey basically asking, did you know about the virtual queue? How was your experience? Blah, blah, blah. But then they asked, so which of the following statements best describes your preference for riding an attraction such as Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind? And I like how they also kind of gave little caveats to each thing. So it's option 1 is I prefer the traditional standby queue system with the understanding that I may have to wait 2+ hours in line. The majority of the line may be outdoors. Or option 2, I prefer the virtual queue system with the understanding that it's only available in the My Disney Experience app and I have to join a boarding group, blah, blah, blah. I may not be able to secure a spot and I will not have the opportunity to choose the specific time for when I ride. So I thought it's an interesting thing because obviously these virtual queues aren't going anywhere. And I also thought it was interesting that the article I was reading it from was Blog Mickey. And if you look at the responses to the tweet, it was like 50-50 with people saying they prefer standby or they prefer virtual queues. So definitely one where Disney is not going to be able to make everybody happy.
No.
But I thought it's interesting that they're kind of polling people because maybe this means they'll keep it longer there or maybe they'll add it to more rides if they think it's getting positive feedback. But maybe I'll turn it over to you, Jason or Zach. What are your thoughts? Do you prefer the virtual queue system, or would you prefer that a ride you could just get in line and wait 2 hours, and if it goes down, it goes down, and you've wasted 2 hours? Or what are your thoughts?
Zach, I'll let you go first as the local.
For me, it depends on the attraction. Doing, for example, Rise of the Resistance, even though I'm happy that's not a virtual queue anymore, that line is rather long, and it can hold a long line. Guardians of the Galaxy, on the other hand, can't hold a very long line. Now, I did it yesterday with the virtual queue, and that was about an hour long because it was outside the door, but it wasn't going outside the queue.
Mm-hmm.
But so it can still get long with the virtual queue, but at least I'm standing inside in air conditioning.
Very true. My personal opinion, just from a logistics point of view, because that's how I always think about, my trips. I'm forced to think a little bit more logistics because my time is precious down there. I can't be a lucky man like Zach, just pop into the park, ride my ride, and go home for dinner. And I'd love for them to expand the virtual queue similar to the individual lightning lanes, right? So maybe each park has one or two of the more popular attractions as virtual queues that you can get in one at a time and allow. So if it's like I know I'm guaranteed to get, Splash Mountain, but I have to get online at a certain point and my line's going to be 30, 40 minutes long versus 40 minutes to 80 minutes long, depending on the day. I'd prefer that because then that 1 hour or 40 minutes of extra time, I could be on ride, I could be on Pirates or Haunted Mansion or something else that's, half the wait. And I think Disney might be smart operationally to, as they start maybe adding more shows back or more entertainment, or the parks aren't as packed as they were, over the summer and in the spring, to kind of, get people around the park a little bit more, maybe get them shopping, getting them out of the lines type of thing. But if the parks remain crowded, I don't think they're going to do that because I think they want people's butts in those lines, keeping them out of the thoroughfares and stuff like that. So would I like to see more virtual queues? Absolutely, because it'll be interesting on how to plan your park day. What do you think, Phil?
So I think two thoughts. One, I like them when it's not just a crapshoot whether you're going to get one or not. Like the way Guardians has been for quite a while, that barring some major malfunction to the system, as long as you're aware of the process, you might not get one at 7 a.m., but you'll get one at the 1 p.m. queue. That's been staying open for hours a lot of the day. When it was Rise, it was gotten very frustrating for a lot of people that this was their one chance to ride it, and it was going in seconds at both of them. Right. And then they're like, well, what do? I just kind of wasted my day for I don't want to say waste the day because it's obviously other things to do, but when that kind of your priority, it's the big new thing, and you have no other alternatives, it can be really, really frustrating. So I think, as long as they get it for a ride that you have a good chance of getting one, I like the concept rather than waiting out in the sun for Guardians for 2 hours or whatever. The other thing, and it kind of follows up what you were saying, Jason, is the more virtual queues you have, the more other stuff you need for guests to do in the park, because instead of standing in a queue, they're somewhere else. So they need more, CD level attractions to do. They need more entertainment. They need more restaurants. They need just other things to do while they're waiting for their virtual queue to be called. So, something like Magic Kingdom, it should work fine. There's plenty of other attractions, but some of these other parks, it might not work as well.
That'd be interesting seeing how that actually affects, crowd control on that type. There's no way to predict it. I doubt that they're going in the direction of adding virtual queues back for Space Mountain or Splash Mountain or something like that. But I think it's more of a survey. Is this the standard operating procedure when opening up new attractions? Which is kind of funny since the only new attraction that's coming out in the next 5 years is probably Tron. So it'd be interesting on what they're actually going for on this. Is this basically? I would assume this is. Do you want to do this for Tron? Yes or no? And I think that's basically what it is, since Tron's going to be here in 5-ish months or so.
Well, I also think roughly now, or even a little before now, if they had said how long was the virtual queue in place for Remy's, you take that time, it would have gone away for Guardians by now. So I'm wondering if this survey is if it comes back fairly positive for the virtual queues, I'm wondering if they'll keep it for Guardians longer than maybe they initially would.
We'll see.
Last news topic, and we can kind of go through this quick. I just thought it was interesting that there was a couple news things that were coming out that maybe could have been announced at the D23 Expo, but weren't. But it did come out in a report that the vice president, head of Epcot, announced that the DuckTales World Showcase Adventure is still coming, and it's going to be at Epcot later this year. So they've been, I guess, putting in the infrastructure and the technology to make that work. Apparently, this was written and recorded by the voice actors years ago. One of the writers tweeted out saying, "This was done so long ago, I forget what I wrote." So it'll be new to me too. Just thought I'd mention that for people that maybe hadn't heard. I think something else, kind of tying off the other. This is a great thing. This was like what Perry's Adventure was before World Showcase, something for kids to do in World Showcase, or kids of all ages. But also that doesn't involve, an individual lightning lane or waiting in line for 2 hours. You just kind of walk around, explore, and do it.
This park needs something like that for people that aren't interested in the World Showcase, like middle schoolers, that type of thing. The only thing that actually I probably answered my own question in my head before you even asked the question is Magic Band Plus going to be something part of this? It's probably not. It's just going to be the Disney Play app. That's probably going to be functioning.
They haven't said. I was actually wondering that too. I mean, if you think about the Bounty Hunter game, it's sort of a combination of the Magic Band and using the app, where it could be the same thing, where when you're near the spot you're supposed to be, your Magic Band Plus starts vibrating or something like that. So they could. They haven't said if it would or not, though.
Yeah, we'll see.
And with that, I think that'll cover the news. A reminder of our social media accounts: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all at the DBC Pod, and the Discord server. Quick update for the Disney Comeback Index. It did move up. It's above 89%, so we're slowly making the creep to 90%, largely driven by the announcement that came out today that after-hours parties will be returning once we get to the new year at both Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. And also wanted to welcome new Discord member Finn Whitman. So it's been great. Every week we've been having one or two new people joining in, and so I think that's been a good thing.
So that basically all you listeners out there and viewers, come join the Discord and you get your name shouted out on the show, if anything. But no, we appreciate everybody that comes in and engages. The forums on Discord have been in play for the last week or two, I think, and I think they're working out fairly well. No one's complained about them yet. So the way we have things is we have a general chat where you can kind of talk about whatever's on the top of your head. And then the forum threads for specific topics, so we can keep like threads going, that type of thing. I don't like the they don't like the UI for them a little bit, but I think they're kind of working on that. So I think if we stay strong, they'll work out in the end. Okay, so the reason why Zach is here is to talk about his adventures over the last month, both for being at D23 and going on the new boat, the Wish. Zach, I don't know where you want to start. Obviously, we've beaten the D23 news to a pulp, and with you on Discord, just not on this show, and we've been talking about it every single week. There's not much more that we can kind of review, but what I would like, because I think this is going to be a little bit quicker than your story or your trip report from the Wish, is what was the feeling in the room? What was like the buzz around the people that are standing around waiting and talking about afterwards? For some of the big parks announcements that we saw on that Sunday.
Yeah, so earlier this month, I got to travel home to California, where I'm originally from. Got to go back to Disneyland for the first time since this thing called COVID started, and it felt really good to be back. Got to experience Haunted Mansion Holiday, which is always a plus to go during the Halloween season. Also got to do my very first Oogie Boogie Bash, which was absolutely amazing. I never want to do another Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween again. That's how amazing that party is. But I'm just kidding. I will still do a Not So Scary party. But if you have the chance to go to California and experience Oogie Boogie Bash in the future, please do so. It's almost a speechless experience. Anyways, enough about Disneyland there. With D23, I got to go all 3 days. The first day, got very lucky, got into the one big panel I was wanting to go to that day, which was the Legend Ceremony, or they were kind of making a Legend Ceremony and kind of hinting at some of the Disney 100 stuff, since next year is the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. That's where we got to see many different Imagineers, TV personalities, movie stars getting their Disney Legends Award. Probably the highlight, or one of the highlights, was Josh Gad's speech. If you have not seen that, please go do so. Another one was they ended the ceremony with giving the Disney legend to Chadwick Boseman. Very, very moving speech by, I think it was his brother. that accepted the award for the family, which there was many tears in the audience, I will say that much. Following that, I kind of just used the rest of the day to experience the show floor. Everyone seemed buzzing. It was very crowded. I think Bob Chapek, the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, later said that there were 80,000 Disney fans that walked into the Anaheim Convention Center that weekend.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's good.
So it was very crowded. That's when I experienced the Disney Parks booth, where they kind of had some of the things coming from around the world. I will say it was more so, I think, more international park based this year than domestic park, Disneyland, Walt Disney World. So it was kind of interesting to see what they were highlighting, like Zootopia going to Shanghai, the Frozen Lands going to Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Paris.
I think it's just.
Am I right on that?
Is it all three of them? I thought it was just Tokyo and Paris off the top of my head.
No, and Hong Kong, all three. They're all little different, but there are the three lands. Yep.
Yeah, and then they had many locations with Toontown update for Disneyland, where they had a model. They had the model for Splash Mountain, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which is replacing Splash Mountain.
Yep.
And I think the model they had on display was Disneyland, so not sure how the model will differ with Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom coming here as well. And then my favorite thing probably in this booth was I got to get a picture with is it Dreamer Point statue?
Dreamer's Point, yep.
Dreamer's Point statue. It's kind of a picture of Walt Disney sitting. It's supposed to look out towards World Showcase in Epcot behind Spaceship Earth, kind of where the old fountain used to be.
Well, they're going to have to put that in storage for the next 5 years as it stays a construction zone, for goodness sakes. But yeah, that was a really cool picture. I really, really like. I think that was like basically the highlight of it, because everything else was kind of like either knew it was coming or it was just kind of, pie in the sky stuff that we mostly talked about anyway.
And then they had a model of the Tafiti, or is a model of a Tafiti going into the Moana Journey of Water. Paints in Epcot there as well. A little bit of a different aspects than in that booth, but that was mostly everything that was in there. Got to experience the Archives exhibit, which had some different things from parks, movies. Mary Poppins was represented, a Disney Channel, Haunted Mansion, different Disneyland things in there as well. But yeah, I kind of just experienced the show floor that day. The second day is kind of started on the show floor again when it did Walt Disney's Plane, as they had Walt Disney's Plane out there. Wasn't able to look inside of it because I think it's pretty much gutted. It was kind of cool to see the plane intact and in person there in the convention center.
Just funny whenever they report on how they're moving the plane. I'm like, isn't it a plane? Can't you just fly it? But like you said, I think it's not really functional at this point.
That thing sat outside in the elements for
decades, right?
I was going to say decades or many, many years.
And then the panels I experienced on this day, they did kind of a National Geographic panel about pets. And I was very excited about this. It had a Dr. Pole and then many members from the Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom series on Disney Plus, which they announced a second season, which I'm very excited about.
If you have that
series on Disney Plus, please do so. And then I did a Marty Sklar panel where I believe I'm forgetting their names, but Leslie Iwerks, the person that did the Imagineering story on Disney Plus.
Excellent documentary. If you guys haven't, I think we talked about this.
Oh yeah,
2 years ago if you haven't seen it yet, just turn off your Disney Plus subscription right now.
Proctored the panel, and they had Marty Sklar's wife and I believe his daughter there, and one Imagineer. I'm forgetting his name.
That's
on
okay.
the top of my head, but it was really cool. They showed many different artifacts from his collection and he has so many things, so many boxes, and it was just kind of cool to see some of the interesting artifacts that he had. And then we also went, or my friend and I that I was with, we went to the 70 Years of Imagineering panel, which that was kind of cool as well, to hear many different stories from Imagineers over the last 70 years, which was interesting. Anyway, so fast tracked into day 3. And that's where I was looking forward to, as it was Disney Parks panel day.
Yes.
And I was able to get in, thankfully. I was able to get the show pass, which is kind of the D23 reservation system that you had to try and book like a few weeks before the actual expo started. And then you were told which events you were going to get into. So the event starts with Jordan Fisher coming out and singing Happily Ever After. And of course, all my Florida friends were all sitting right next to each other, and we're all going crazy because we missed that show so much. And then Josh Tomorrow comes out, and he's like, let's all start with announcements. And of course, he announces that Happily Ever After is... And that's all we needed to hear for all of us to start screaming. I don't think anyone in the hall actually heard that's the Happily Ever After anthem coming back. So we all just thought Happily Ever After was coming back, but now we've all heard that it's an updated Happily Ever After, and no one knows what that means, if it's just adding Main Street projections or they're actually going to change the show.
Well, I mean, we talked about this for the last 2 weeks. We've touched on it. I mean, I'm okay with using the anthem. I mean, as long as the spirit and the song remain the same, because there's a big section in the middle, obviously, that's just the story and everything else like that, but it's not the song. I think you could update it with projections, maybe add new villains and heroes and stuff like that, and it'll still be the same show. I think. I don't think you need. It doesn't have to be the same to be just as great, because the song is what really hits me in the feels every time I hear it. So, Zach, do you need this? Are you a purist? Does the show need to come back in its an entirety for it to be what you expect, or like are you accepting of like updates and changes?
I need the beginning, and I need the go the distance to the end to stay the same.
Totally agree. I mean, that's the anthem, right? It's the song. I mean, you can't change. You can change everything in the middle, but yes, I'm with you on that one.
So, everything else, I don't mind if they change, but I need those aspects in that show, and I will just be happy.
100%.
So anyways, right on the fast track here, it kind of got really interesting then, and it felt like there was just a lot of words and not a lot of announcements.
Which was funny that Josh started the whole thing. He's like, I got so much to talk about. We got to go really fast through this. And then we're like, but you're just saying words and then having like dance numbers. Like, I thought you were in a hurry.
Yeah, but it was just interesting how it's like they talk about 5 minutes and they build up this thing with the Mandalorian, and it's just a meet and greet.
And Disneyland only.
And it's at Disneyland only. So I'm like, okay. That's fine. And then they talk for another 10 minutes, and it's the Hulk, which recently showed up at Avengers Campus in Disney California Adventure, which, I mean, I've shared before, I think that I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, and I actually thought Avengers Campus was really cool over there. So I'm excited to see what that new attraction is going to be, which they didn't really share more about at the parks panel, but they gave us a poster, which was interesting. Probably my favorite part of the whole entire panel, again for the parks panel, was the cruise line announcements. I mean, we were expecting the announcement of the 6 ships' name, which was revealed as the Disney Treasure. It's gotten some mixed reviews. I'm actually a fan of it. I like the name.
I think it has potential. The theming,
Sure.
with the character IP they kind of showed with it. I think it could be cool.
I'll never be going on it, but there's a diehard group of cruise fans, and we'll get to your cruise, and I think we should skip right to the cruise at this point because this is a good segue. Oh, actually, no, I want to bring up one more thing before we get to the cruise. We could talk about the treasure and your trip, but what was the read on the room? As it felt like the panel was being over, and that was it, and then they did some stuff. And then it was like all the blue sky stuff. I don't care about like the takes of what you think it's going to be and all this stuff because we talked about that last week. But what was the room and the buzz with your friends and the crowd around you just before and after those two announcements? That's what I'm curious about.
My opinion is I really don't understand why they talked about it.
That's what everybody was probably.
Was that the general feeling in the room that people are like, I don't get this? Or
it really was. And I mean, I was talking to some other guests as we were walking out, as it can get very bottlenecked and it could take a while to walk out of the room after the presentation. There was a fellow guest right next to us when we were talking about it, and they literally turned around and they said, I think they were just testing many different announcements, and they'll probably go forward with whichever one got the loudest reaction.
Right, like some field test of just some ideas.
And I mean,
interesting.
I mean, it's cool that they were talking about it, and it was almost just interesting because it felt like Josh D'Amaro kept like bringing up all these things, and it was like, so Disney is listening. And Disney is listening to the fans because all the things that they were talking about are things that fans have been talking about for years. In many aspects. Mm-hmm. They weren't saying a villain's theme park, but they were saying a villain's land, which I'd be interested to see what they build in Magic Kingdom in that part of the park, as there's a lot of land back there. So I know they could build a lot more if they really want to. It would just be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see that you have the biggest of the biggest Disney fans in the room, and they had the same reactions as us super fans that are on the East Coast, or the casual super fan that's following along on Twitter, or maybe not watching the stream, or following up later that day type of thing. I think the reaction was kind of universal. It's just a bunch of head scratching and stuff like that. So I was just curious to see what those reactions were. In the room. But now I want to get to, okay, so we've announced the treasure. You say, it is what it is. It's a new part, a new ship coming. We'll get to know it a little bit better as time goes on. But for the sake of time, I want to cut right to your trip on the Wish. So, how long did you go for? Did you go? Who'd you go with? If you went with anybody in particular? Was it a solo venture? And what was your agenda like? So give me some top level info of your trip.
So this trip was a year and a half in the making, it felt like. Just a long time coming, and it happened just like so quickly, and that was just weird to go from D23 to 5 days later boarding a cruise ship. But So a group of us, there was about 12 of us total. Several members of the Discord were on this cruise with me, and it was a lot of fun. We did a 3-night sailing on the Disney Wish, and we were like, well, we don't want to rush the ship in 3 days, so let's book a back-to-back. So we did a 3-night sailing and a 4-night sailing back-to-back, which was a lot of fun. It was a great way to kind of test the ship on the 3-night. Then the 4-night was just like we could relax and we knew what we wanted to do again.
Yep.
So kind of the ship did the 3-night Bahamas sailing, 4-night Bahamas sailing. So Nassau, Castaway Cay, and then 4-night added a day at sea.
Very cool. So what was the highlights? Like if you're going back and you had to say one thing that was awesome during your stay, what was the highlight of the trip? I'm sure, obviously there's more than one highlight, but what was the one top level takeaway that was the funnest thing to do or most memorable?
Arendelle, the dining room.
Is it just because of the food, the experience, just the overall theming? What hit you about it the most?
I know it's Frozen, and I'm sure Frozen isn't the most popular maybe for adults of families, as we know how many times you've probably listened to those songs over and over again. But I mean, it was kind of fun. Got to eat some food from Norway, or it was kind of themed the menu that way at least.
Mm-hmm.
And then the entertainment was amazing. It was so much fun.
Now, I don't follow the cruise line news. I mean, I do top line lights the cruise. I see how it looks. It looks amazing. I don't know what the entertainment's like. So what is the entertainment that you're for this experience?
So, I mean, I'll give a little bit of a spoiler. The entertainment for Arendelle is you are walking in and you are going to help. It's kind of like the engagement party or the wedding party for Kristoff and Anna.
Okay.
And so you're celebrating their engagement or marriage. I can't remember which one it was. But it was just a lot of fun. Then they would like perform many songs from Frozen and Frozen 2. Highlight was definitely Kristoff and I'm forgetting Oaken. It was not Elsa singing "Let It Go."
That's weird.
That was definitely probably the highlight of the whole show, because that was a lot of fun. But yeah, Arendelle was great.
I've been hearing that from a lot of people from the review that's definitely one of the highlights. And I don't know if you want to talk about the other dining, because the dining is kind of a big thing they're promoting for this, but it sort of seems like that Arendelle kind of exceeded people's expectations, and then the Marvel one maybe didn't quite meet people's expectations.
Well, for me, the Marvel dining room had the best food.
Okay.
But again, like I said earlier, I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, so the show didn't do anything for me. It was still cool. It was a lot of fun, but the food was probably the highlight of that dining room. In terms of 1923, great dining experience. There's a Roy Disney side of the dining room and a Walt Disney side of the dining room. 1923 being the year the Walt Disney Company started. So it's kind of got this like old school, maybe Hollywood Brown Derby feel to it. And there's just a lot of different art and artifacts from Disney movies through the 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. So it's kind of cool to just walk around. I forget how many art and artifacts they said were in the room, as I got to do kind of a theme tour on the Wish one of the days, which was a lot of fun. Highly recommend those if you ever go on a Disney cruise ship. But 1923, the food was good. 1923 on our 3-night sailing was the very last dining room. So we had Marvel first and Arendelle, and our group of 10 of us at this table. By the time we got to 1923, we're kind of just happy to sit down at a table and eat and converse as a show going on through the whole entire dining. So that I would probably say that's just a slight little negative, as sometimes I just want to really sit down and not be distracted by something. But yeah, dining was a lot of fun. We also ate at Palo Steakhouse, which is a new kind of theme for one of the adult restaurants. Very, very delicious. A lot of fun. That meal took a while, as there was a lot of us and we kind of just enjoyed each other's company. But if you ever had the chance to eat a Japanese A5 Wagyu,
go for it.
Go for it.
It sounds delicious. I don't often get to go to steak restaurants because my wife is vegetarian. So I when I get a chance to get a good steak, I always kind of pounce on that. So one of the things, like I don't know, I probably should know this because you probably talked about it before. But have you gone on? How many other ships have you gone on? I don't know if you've ever. I don't think this was your first Disney cruise, was it?
I actually hit platinum on the 3-night.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that. So have you been on all the boats or?
I have been on all the ships, yes.
So is this the best one? If you had to book your next cruise in, let's say, 6 months from now, would it be on the Wish again, or would it be on another one?
It would not.
And why is that?
I enjoyed the Wish. It was a lot of fun. I think it was more fun being with a large group.
Mm-hmm.
I know if I had a family, the ship is really good for families. But being a solo adult, there are things to do, but there's not like a set adult district.
Okay.
And like the bars are kind of spread out throughout the ship in a way. And I mean, the bars are good. I know everyone's curious about Hyperspace Lounge. Went in there once and didn't go back. As a Star Wars fan, you may find that shocking, but I enjoyed many of the other bars on the ship a little more.
Okay. I do remember you mentioned that in Discord, that take. Is it just because it's fun, cool to see, but it's more of a one and done type of thing versus somewhere where you can just like really relax and hang out?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It was more just one and done. I didn't necessarily like the drink I had in there, but that could just be me and my taste. So.
Well, I mean, that's curious, Phil, because I think when you design like a themed experience like this, that for like a 3-night sailing, they don't expect you to be in there every single night, spending all your. They expect you to kind of go around the ship, and I'm probably not far off, but most people aren't repeat cruise line coming back on another Disney cruise where it can get monotonous, like the choices that you might have. Like the average, I would imagine the average person going on the Wish, outside the platinum people that are going within the first 3 or 4 months of its inaugural journey, that they expect them to come on once and probably never come back, or the time between their sailings is a pretty long time. So do you think they designed this for like the wow factor but not like the comfort factor, if that makes sense?
I mean, Disney says that this is the castle on the seas, and it very much looks like that. Cinderella is the centerpiece. The atrium, the grand hall is what they call it. Very, very, very pretty. And I mean, they do several different shows in there throughout the day as well, and a lot of the characters usually meet in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I know related to the Hyperspace Lounge that when it first opened, you had to make a reservation to get in, and just recently they've stopped requiring that. And it seemed like the first few sailings it was almost impossible to get in there, and it was packed and stuff. And then of late, it seems like it's more not a big deal and that sort of thing. So maybe the hype has died down a little bit around it, and maybe it, like you said, it isn't. When you're on a cruise, you want a place to just kind of hang out and chill, and maybe this isn't the right setting for that for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I was just able to walk in. I didn't have to make a reservation. And when I went, it wasn't too crowded either, which was nice. I know a lot of the complaints I've heard about the Wish is the layout. I don't understand that. I mean, the layout's fine.
I think it's just cranky people want to complain about something.
I think it's just different. The things aren't where people want them to be, or something like that, but where they're used to things being.
It was like, my first day, I was like, okay, that's where that is. That's where that is. And then the next 6 days I was on the ship, it was rather easy to just remember where everything was. Really quick, the spa, very, very nice. The rainforest room, if you know what that is, it's kind of like an adult relaxation area that you have to pay a little bit more for. It's the best rainforest room out of all the Disney cruise ships. Kind of had the area in the bow of the ship is reserved for this area, so you have like 2 whirlpools and a lot of like lounging areas outside. Then like the saunas and heated lounge chairs are on the inside there. Very beautiful space if you go on the Wish. Highly recommend that area. Aqua Mouse was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed that little water slide. The little cartoons going up the little lift hill that they have there was very, very cool. They have two different ones. One's kind of like in the Alps, and one's under the sea, and they change every single day or every day. So one day you get something else, and the other day will be the other movie, or the next day, I should say. But yeah, highly recommend that. Can get some pretty long lines, so if you have the chance to do it, maybe on a day when everyone's on Castaway Key, which then I recommend doing it then, as I mean, there are times we waited an hour.
Oh, wow.
Right. It was, I mean, they say it's Disney's first attraction at sea, which is fun.
At least it wasn't 2 hours, right?
True.
I mean, like if you're comparing it to like main attractions at one of the parks where you will wait the 120 plus minutes, at least an hour is not too bad. But then again, you have a finite number of guests on the cruise ship, right? It's not the park opening up and it's 80,000 people.
Yeah. Pirate Night was a lot of fun with the pirate fireworks show that they have. A little bit different with this ship. They launch it from two sides, not just one side, which was kind of cool, as there was more fireworks than in this show than the other Disney cruises.
But overall, was your experience exactly what you're expecting? Did it exceed your expectations, or did it meet them and you just had a good time?
It met my expectations and had a good time. Just really quick, one more thing on our 4-night sailing. We were lucky enough to be the very first voyage to test their new shipboard game, which was a lot of fun. They had 4 different like ship scavenger hunt type of games where you kind of had to go to different pictures or boards throughout the ship, and the boards and the pictures will then come to life, and
that's cool.
Kind of talking to you. They had a Finding Nemo version, a Peter Pan version, Moana, and Princess and the Frog. Different quests there, and it's called Disney's Uncharted Adventure. So if you find yourself on the Wish, definitely a lot of fun. Very easy. Probably takes maybe 2 hours, I would say, to do all 4 quests, to get them all done. If you just find yourself having free time, each quest takes about maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I would guess. So.
Oh, that's pretty good. Good distraction.
Did you find that like enhanced your experience with the ship? And so I guess part of me was like, when I saw that, I was like, well, I'm on like a cruise ship going to a Caribbean island. I don't really want to be staring at my phone and AR stuff or whatever it is. But do you think it was a good use of that and it kind of enhanced your experience with the ship?
It would definitely be a lot of fun for like the kids. And I had a lot of fun as an adult doing it. But by the time I was on my 6th day of a 7-day cruise, and I feel like I had experienced the whole ship, I was kind of running out of things to do.
Oh, okay.
Fair enough.
So it kind of just gave me a way to just run around the ship and do something. Which, I mean, I had fun. It was still a lot of fun. But yeah.
I guess my last question would be, if for a family that's maybe thinking of doing their first, do you suggest they do it on the Wish or one of the classic ships, I guess?
So
I know it might be hard for you because you're not, a traditional family, I guess, but just for a first timer, whether it's a family or not, I guess.
So the Wish right now is doing the 3 and 4 night sailings, and usually for a first time cruiser, people do recommend the shorter sailings. That way you could kind of figure out if you like cruising. I still wish they had the Dream or the Fantasy doing the 3 or 4 night sailings, because I think those are better ships to get a real taste of what Disney Cruise Line is. The Wish has a lot, and I understand, like I said, that I didn't understand the negativity around the layout that it's getting, but I just think the Dream or the Fantasy or the Magic and the Wonder are more complete ships. I would kind of put the Wish in the middle of the pack. The Wonder is my favorite ship, probably followed by the Fantasy. then I don't really know where I'd place right now the Dream, the Wish, or the Magic.
That's interesting. So we'll let you think about it, because I am assuming that you're already thinking about when your next cruise is going to be already, Mr. Platinum over there.
Already booked.
Oh, there you go. We'll have you back on. Maybe we'll do like a in a couple months after the holidays, when we're done talking about Christmas. We'll have you back on for Christmas when we start talking about that, since you are the Epcot expert for the holiday season. But I want to move on to one more thing, Phil, because I think we have to do the DBC engagement, because it's actually tied to an event in Discord, and we're just about to hit an hour mark, so people get at least another 5 or 10 minutes of us going on and on. I say 5 or 10 minutes. Hopefully it doesn't turn into 15 or 20, but knowing us, it might. So last week's engagement was from Doxy, where she asked, is the Disney brand damaged? Is there a chink in the armor? Or are we not there yet, but getting close? To me, I want to preface this by saying I don't think that this is a negative connotation of a question. Obviously, when you use the word damaged, you might think that. My opinion on this basically is how I read it. Has there been any negative connotations to Disney about guest experiences and everything else? And personally for me, I'm taking it just from a parks experience type of thing. And I think there is a lag in expectations for Disney parks. I don't like using the word damage, because to me that's kind of extreme in thinking, because for the Disney brand to be damaged, you have to start really having negative, like almost using the word hate, and I think that's a very strong word. I think for me personally, the parks brand I think is getting a little bit long in the tooth, so to speak, right? There's very little overall new experiences that could bring. I mean, there's new attractions, yes, but I think there's coming out of the pandemic. There's such a delay in a lot of things for at least uber Disney fans. The Epcot construction, Tron taking 7+ years, Genie Plus and the nickel and diming, because that's the thing that everybody talks about, the nickel and diming, having to plan over and over again. I mean, if you're a listener to the Disney Dish podcast, you know that Universal's sending out surveys about how easy it is to go to Universal, how easy it is to plan and everything else like that. So I think there is I like the word chink in the armor of Disney's reputation in Orlando, because of a lot of things that they're either not adding, taking a long time to add, and a lot of the hoops that you have to jump into for that vacation, especially after we talk about like MDE going away and all this other type of stuff. So that's my opinion. I think they're resting on their laurels a little bit too much, and I think that if things don't change, Universal might start coming in and kind of inching closer. Phil, where do you stand on this? Do you interpret brand damage? I almost said brand damage as something that's a term that you can use, or would you use a different term? How do you interpret this question?
Yeah, so I think it is for a certain group of fans. I think for people that had a really great experience experiencing the parks for a number of years, and things are changing a lot now, and in some cases not for the better, right? There are a lot more nickel and diming things where it used to feel much more all-inclusive. There are, it's just gotten more expensive. And some people just aren't able to go as much as they used to. The way a lot of the annual pass holders I know feel, where they used to be able to, it was just easy to pop in, and now it's like much more convoluted and they're not able to do it as much. So I think for certain of those really strong, passionate fans that have been around for a while, it is a little damaged. It is maybe soured in their minds. I think overall it isn't really that damaged, though. I know, we've covered it on the show, but I had recent friends that went this summer and they had an absolute blast. And they're, some of them are talking about when they're planning their next trip. There are new attractions. There are amazing things that are catering to different guests. And the expensing, I've been hearing it for decades that it's getting too expensive, but people still come and stuff, So I think, some of it's just different. One of the big things, though, I feel like there's just a lot more negativity in social media and in the reporting and stuff, and that can kind of weigh on people. And I kind of wonder, there were these reports about, what Bob Chapek was saying in these interviews with like the Wall Street Journal and stuff. And I'm like, well, would we have even heard about this when like, Frank Wells was giving it as the CFO back in the day and stuff. And like, would it be all over 50 blogs and stuff like that? What he said to the Wall Street Journal? I just don't think that stuff was noticed. You just kind of went and had fun and didn't really care about what went on behind the scenes. And I did see a few comments about that. I think it was Ryan W on the boards kind of put that it does feel a little like the curtain's getting pulled back and we're seeing a little bit too much maybe about how the sausage is made. And that's kind of distracting from a place that you generally go for escapism. And you're maybe not able to get that as much at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, I think the escapism is a good point. And jump in, Zach, if you want to, if you got a point here. But like before, when you planned a Disney World trip, and speaking of non-local like perspective, right? It's you went and you paid for your package, you paid for your hotel, you paid for your tickets, and then once you got to the parks, you're not really spending much money on anything else other than food and some toys for your kids and that type of thing, typically. And that's the only time you had to pull out your wallet for the most part. Now with Genie Plus and having to pay on the fly to get past lines or paying on the same day for Genie Plus, those are just extra things that you have to start paying for. And then now we're going to have all these after-hour attractions or, ticket events, which personally I think are great as long as they don't impede in the normal operating hours of the park. People are just going to see all these extra things that you can start spending money on, and it's just like, is it ever enough? They're going to think like, I could only if maybe somebody saved up for years to go to Disney World because it is getting exponentially more expensive than it was 10 years ago, right? I mean, they've outpaced inflation by how many times over throughout the years. So they saved up longer than they used to go on vacation, and then all of a sudden they went on just a normal single-day ticket with 5 or 7 days at the parks, or 5 or 7 days on property, but now they see all these other things that you can be doing that they didn't budget for, or didn't know about, or maybe the kids are disappointed they can't go to a party, or they can't skip a line, or they can't get this, that, or the other. I think Disney needs to be careful about what they charge people for and what all the extra offerings are. It's a balance, right? I respect them for the business case, but I think they need to be careful about adding a price tag to every single thing that they do. Zach, as a local as an annual pass holder, are you experiencing the same like nickel and diming kind of thought process, or are you just kind of experiencing it through the other guests, as they kind of talk about it, like on Discord and around the internet?
See what both of you said. Is the Disney brand damaged? I don't think so, but I could understand how some people can think that. As a local, I have the choice really to spend my money on what I want, and if I don't want to, like, I've only bought Genie Plus 5 times since it's come out, and I've been in the parks probably 100 times since it's come out. So kind of just weighing, and it's usually when friends are in town or different things. So, I'm weighing the experience, trying to give my friends the best experience possible. I was just like I mentioned, at Disneyland, and had an absolute amazing time, and it was just amazing to see Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
Like at Disneyland, everything is pretty much back. Like the parks just felt normal.
Yeah, yep. I mean, and you just all the different parades and the shows that they're doing, the things that they're adding, they're doing it on a much faster timeline than Disney World. So it's easy to see why that sentiment's there. Land versus the world.
And I would say, I don't know if Disney right now is focusing on the parks, but I think they're very much focused on Disney Plus and their movie studios right now. And I'm not saying that they're not focusing on the parks, because, the parks are still fun. I'm still going to go. I don't think
Phil and I are spending thousands upon thousands of dollars in 60 days to go. I mean, I think if you look through, I mean, we have a cut of a bunch of different responses that we're not going to kind of read verbatim on here, but I think newest member to Discord, Finn Whitman, he mentioned how it's more transactional than in past trips. And I think that's generally the sentiment across the board. It's more things that you have to pay for to either equal the experience that you had 4 years ago or optimize it to the way that you're comfortable and you're not just being, waiting in line all over the place, right? So I don't think it's damaged. I think everybody's still on Discord. You're still listening to this show out there. So, right, if the brain was damaged, you're not listening to a podcast wherever you're exercising, driving, or relaxing as you listen to us talk about the parks. So I don't think it's damaged, but I think people are exasperated with some of the choices that they've made. So it's just like when you have, a partner that you love, children that you love, friends that you love, and they do something that you don't quite agree with, that you thought maybe they made a bad choice. You still love them. You still want to hang out with them. You still want to spend time with them, but you're like, I'll forgive you this one. Let's make better choices in the future type of. I think that's the sentiment everybody has, because I don't think it's. I mean, outside maybe the once in a lifetime or casual vacationer, not casual fan, but casual vacation, they might be turned off by the Genie Plus stuff or whatever, as a normal tourist would, about extra money being spent. But I think anybody that's actually a fan of the parks, I don't think it's damage other than they're just frustration for more money that they have to spend for the same amount of things. And I think that gets smoothed over the years, because because if Disney's smart, they don't raise their ticket prices, but they stick Genie Plus in there and everything else. So you're spending more money elsewhere that you would normally have spent on a price increase or something else like that. But it's just one more line item that frustrates people.
And I'll say it this way, kind of, with Disneyland, we all heard that Disneyland is a locals park, and locals feel like they're very much attached to Disneyland. People will voice opinions if they're angry. People will voice opinions if they're happy. It's because we love the place. We love the parks. All three of us, we love the parks, and there's millions of people in this world that love Disney, and we all have opinions, but we're all still going to go.
Yep.
Because we all know that Disney is our happy place.
Zach, I think you gave me the perfect segue to what I think is going to be this week's DVC engagement question. And Phil, I don't know if you want me to word it the way I wrote it on here, but it's a little eye-opening to take a step back from your fandom and consider things, right? So this week I want to ask how much of booking your next Disney World trip, whether it's next year or you're going on one and then you're going to book a next one, because everybody's always has to have the next trip booked, right? You always feel, if you don't have something that's booked within the next year and a half, you start feeling lost and disconnected, right? So everybody knows that feeling. So how much part of getting that booked is now a habit, I put in parentheses, or an addiction, because it could potentially be both, and not because of a specific reason. Like sometimes people book to go to Disney World because they haven't been in a while and there's some new rides, or there's a new show, a new addition, a new resort, and it's like, or it's their once in a lifetime trip, or they haven't been in 5 years. Those are all like not perfectly normal, but like normal trips for the average person to go to Disney World. So another way to ask it is, how much is your addiction/love of Disney the driving factor when deciding to go? Are you chasing something that you once had or felt, so you want to go back? Like, is that nostalgia pull so heavy that you have to go, that you're trying to capture something? Or is each trip still adding to those wonderful memories, and you are addicted has too much of a negative connotation, but you're Phil, you got to be my thesaurus here. Like it's like you love building those memories over time, and that you have to go because you are worried that you won't make those memories that will be part of the nostalgia 10, 15, 20 years ago when you have your own children, or you're a grandparent, or whatever the reason that you might be going back in 15, 20 years, where you're afraid to not have that memory book of trips that you can build upon, right? Is that a main driving factor that you're scared of losing, not having those memories? I hope I'm making myself clear in my question.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I think I would kind of summarize, or at least the way I'm thinking of it is, are you booking this trip, like the next trip you book to Disney World, is it being booked just because you always book a next trip to Disney World or is it because you actively want to do it and you're excited about it and you're saying our next vacation is we're going to go to Walt Disney World because we're going to do X, Y, and Z and everyone's going to love it and I'm going to create these memories? Or is it just because, well, we went last year, we went this year, we're going to go next year? Like, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but are we, how are we feeling about our next Disney trip? Is it something we're truly looking forward to and excited about, or is it a little bit more of, well, we're going because we always go?
And I want to say, like, we're always excited to go, right?
Yeah.
That's I'm having an issue framing this properly.
Yeah.
But I think, like, when you just like, oh, we have to book because we have to book, is the driving factor that you have to book, or the driving factor is, well, we always go? Is it because is there a fear of not having those memories? That's a question I kind of want to dive into next week. Is when you take a step back and you go, you're spending all this money to go, and you take a step back, ask the question, do I really need to go? Right? Everybody wants to go, but do you really need to go? And need in the context that, yes, it is a vacation and it is a lot of money. No one needs to go to Disney World, right? Everybody wants to go. But is this like a need to go because it's a unique experience or whatever, or is it because of the fear of missing out?
No, I totally get what you're saying. Like, I know I had a conversation with Christina on the boards where, her girls are still little and she's super excited about all like the Christmas stuff and meeting the characters. And I was mentioning, when we're not so much for our Disney trip, but our last trip, my oldest is a teenager now. And she was kind of like, do I have to go? Like, can I just stay in the room? Like that sort of thing. So it's like, time is limited, right? And if you don't take the trip now, you don't get a second chance to take this year's trip, right?
Or Phil, save it, because this is the exact conversation I want to have next week.
All right.
We're not allowed to talk about it.
That's just to prime everyone, all right?
Yes. Yeah, so that'll be an interesting discussion to have this week and follow up on the show. As you predicted, Phil, we do not have time for our takes. Our over on transportation, so we'll save that for next week. I have a couple different good topics that we might bring out for next week. That being said, we're over, but thank you for your patience and hanging in there. Zach, thank you for coming on and sharing your wonderful experiences out in California and on the high seas. Looking forward. We definitely need to bring you on. I think, Phil, maybe a week or so. When does the official Christmas season start in the world, Zach? Do you know this?
Friday. Well, Festival of the Holidays starts the day after Thanksgiving and will run till December 30th.
Well, this is why I bring this up, because I want to have you back on. We want to do like a Christmas holiday roundup to prepare everybody for their planning, because by that time, hopefully, I've done my due diligence and figuring out what I want to do. So I think maybe like the week or two prior to Thanksgiving, we'll have like the Christmas episode to kind of showcase good planning, good touring plans, things to kind of look out for. Especially a lot of these things at Epcot that you don't have to sign up for, right? You just kind of make sure you're in the right spot when it happens, type of thing.
I will say really quick, like the Christmas decorations start going up November 1st.
Yeah.
Really.
Especially Magic Kingdom, right? Yeah.
Like usually the parties at Magic Kingdom are starting around November 11th through the 15th in that time frame. But usually it takes until about Thanksgiving for then all the resorts to be decorated fully and the entire parks to be decorated.
See, I made the mistake, Phil, about bringing back Christmas up, and Zach said, I'm ready to talk for another hour, man. Let's go. I can't personally do, in my personal life, I can't do Christmas planning until Halloween is done. That's when I can start thinking about it. I do not decorate my house until Christmas music cannot be played in my house until dessert on Thanksgiving night. That's basically the law, because as much as I love it, I think I would kill the vibe by the time Christmas came around if I was listening to Christmas music for 2 months straight. I'm not one of those people that listen to Christmas music over there. In any case, we added another 3 minutes to this conversation about Christmas, and I love it. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Make sure you like and subscribe and share the show. If you haven't shared the show with somebody that you love and that you know is a Disney fan, please do. We'll be here next week. Thank you for listening, everybody. Have a good night. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.